India's police force isn't just broken. It's a danger to the very people it's supposed to protect. We're talking about a system so slow, so incompetent, and in some cases so corrupt that criminals can operate with confidence because they know the police will probably be on their side or at least too lazy or incompetent to do anything. And if you think that's an exaggeration, just wait until you hear the numbers and the stories. The problem starts at the very foundation, the barrier to entry. In many parts of India, the requirements to become a police officer are shockingly low. We're talking about minimal education, barely their fitness standards, and a recruitment process that in some cases is more about who you know than what you can do. Compare that with a country like China, where police undergo extensive vetting, rigorous physical testing, and months of professional training before they ever put on a uniform. In India, someone can go from being completely inexperienced to patrolling the streets with power over people's lives in just a matter of weeks. That's not fast-track efficiency. That's a recipe for disaster. And disaster is exactly what India's policing has become. The rot runs deep. There's an ingrained culture of non-urgency, where responding to crimes isn't treated as a moral duty, but as an inconvenience. People report crimes and are told to come back tomorrow. Complaints sit in dusty files for months. Victims are often the ones chasing the police for updates, not the other way around. In rural areas, response times are laughably bad. If a crime happens in the evening, the police might show up the next morning after the suspects are long gone, and they'll say, "Hey, at least we showed up." But even worse than the laziness is the corruption. In India, it's not rare for officers to take bribes, ignore evidence, or outright protect the criminals if there's a political or personal connection. In some cases, police themselves have been involved in extortion rackets, illegal detentions, and even violent assaults. The institution isn't just failing at its job, it's actively making the problem worse, and this has deadly consequences. One of the most horrifying examples is how the police handle crimes against women. India has some of the highest rates of harassment and sexual assault in the world, but many victims never see justice not because the cases are impossible to solve, but because the police don't bother to investigate properly. Survivors are often pressured to drop their cases, told they'll ruin their family's reputation, or even shamed into silence. In high-profile cases, police have been caught mishandling evidence or failing to file the correct charges, effectively letting rapists walk free. That's not just incompetence. That's a betrayal of public trust. Then there's the role of the police in religious and ethnic violence. Instead of protecting vulnerable communities, officers have been seen standing by while mobs lynch people over something as absurd as eating beef or allegedly insulting a cow. In some cases, police have even been accused of encouraging the mob or filing charges against the victims' families instead of the attackers. This isn't law enforcement. It's political policing, where officers act as enforcers for whatever ideology is in power rather than neutral protectors of public safety. And when they do decide to solve a crime, it's often just for show. Catching the real criminal takes time and resources. So instead, they'll sometimes pick up a random person, probably a homeless person with no family so nobody will miss them, slap a confession out of them, and parade them in front of the cameras as the mastermind behind the case. The public sees an arrest, the police look competent, and the real perpetrator is still free. This fake arrest culture is so common that some activists have joked the police should get awards for creativity in fiction, or maybe even a Bollywood Oscar. Bureaucracy only makes it worse. Every single report has to snake its way through a maze of forms, approvals, and signatures. If the officer in charge is on leave, your case might just sit there until they're back. And if the accused happens to be connected to a local politician, forget it. Your complaint will probably never see daylight. The combination of red tape and corruption means justice moves at a snail's pace, if it moves at all. Now, let's compare this with China. Chinese police forces, while not perfect, operate under a centralized command that allows for rapid mobilization and coordination. There's far less tolerance for officers who fail to act, and corruption is punished swiftly and publicly. Investigations are handled with a level of discipline and urgency that India's system simply doesn't have. In China, if there's a violent incident, police are often on the scene within minutes, and follow-up investigations are thorough. India, on the other hand, feels stuck in a colonial-era policing mindset. Reactive, not proactive. Slow, not strategic. And more concerned with maintaining appearances than delivering justice. And the statistics are damning. According to India's own National Crime Records Bureau, conviction rates for many serious crimes remain dismally low, often below 30%. That's not because the crimes didn't happen. It's because investigations are botched, evidence is lost, and witnesses are intimidated without any real protection. In crimes against women, the conviction rate is even lower. Meanwhile, in China, conviction rates for major crimes are far higher, not only because of stricter laws, but because police work is backed by forensics, surveillance, and professional investigative teams that actually know what they're doing. The problem isn't just about money. India spends far less per capita on its police force than many countries. But the real issue is how that money is used. Funds disappear into ghost salaries, fake overtime claims, and inflated equipment bills. Officers are often poorly paid and poorly trained, but that's by design. It keeps them dependent on political bosses and more likely to earn extra income through bribes. One of the ugliest aspects of the Indian police is how they treat marginalized groups. Dalits, Muslims, and tribal communities often face police harassment instead of protection. There are countless stories of officers refusing to file first information reports, FIRs, from these groups, or worse, arresting them on trumped-up charges while the real offenders go free. In a functioning democracy, the police should be the first line of defense for the weak. In India, they're too often the first source of fear. Even in big cities where you'd expect more professionalism, the same patterns repeat. Petty crimes are ignored, major crimes are mishandled, and the focus is on highly publicized crackdowns that are more PR stunt than public service. It's a cycle of failure, weak recruitment, poor training, rampant corruption, political interference, and zero accountability. And let's not forget, this isn't just an internal problem for India. A dysfunctional police force means more organized crime, more cross-border smuggling, and more instability in a region that's already tense. When India's police can't even secure their own streets, how can they claim to be a rising global power? Or, as some of them claim, a superpower? The worst part is, most Indians know this. People have learned not to trust the police, not because of one bad experience, but because the failures are constant and predictable. In surveys, trust in the Indian police is consistently low, and it's not hard to see why. You can't build public safety on a foundation of fear, favoritism, and false arrests. So yes, India's police force is broken, but it's not beyond repair. It's just that fixing it would require the one thing the institution resists the most: accountability, real recruitment standards, proper training, independent oversight, and above all, removing political control from policing. Until then, the system will stay exactly as it is, sluggish, corrupt, and dangerous not just to criminals, but to ordinary citizens. And maybe that's the most depressing part, that the very people paid to protect are the ones people fear calling the most. Because in India today, the badge doesn't always stand for justice. Sometimes it's just a license to get away with anything. If you enjoyed this video, then please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.